Make no mistake, there is a battle waging. It's not the battle between the bull and the bear. It's not China versus the US. It's not Trump versus liberals. It's corporations that seek short-term profits in expense of long-term sustainability. The food industry continues to poison U.S. population, and the United States government has allowed it. Why? Profits. Additives and preservatives make food preparation a lot cheaper, and these things just make companies more profits. And how does the companies get away with this? Well, the FDA, who's in charge of a lot of those approvals, boards that allow the American people to be poisoned. Now, I'm not a crazy conspiracy theorist. This doesn't take much to figure out. Go look on the back of any of your packaging, of any of your, processed foods that sit in your pantry. Take a look at Doritos. Look up any of those ingredients that you don't know what they mean and see if they cause cancer. All right. So look, why did they let that happen? Well, look at the medical industry. The medical industry, and I'm going to get to a point, I promise. The medical industry, if you go into the doctor and say, doctor, I'm not feeling great. They do some tests and they find out you have type 2 diabetes. Instead of saying, hey, listen, why don't you not eat sugar for a while? Why don't you cut back on the alcohol? Why don't you try to exercise? They either give you insulin or a pill or something instead of telling you how to fix the problem. All right. So then why is this allowed? Well, think about our medical schools. They don't teach basic nutrition in our medical schools. And the vast majority of ailments can be solved through proper diet and exercise. Yet when you go to the doctor with any little problem, they give you a pill. Now, that is crazy, but that's why the medical industry, or how the medical industry was started. And so why am I talking about all of this? Why is this all coming up now? Because right now, the powers that be, the news, they want you to think that these tariffs are the worst thing on the planet for the country. Now, don't forget, we have $37 trillion of debt. We were running off a cliff well before the tariffs started. So, we have these tariffs and everyone's freaking out about them, and the world's going to end. And, I've seen some people say we're going to go into a 1929 style depression if we don't end the tariffs soon. And they also cite the tariffs that were enacted in 1930, which was, by the way, after the Great Recession started in 1929. After that started, and it started the end and slowdown of globalization back in 1930 and hurt companies' profits, and companies retracted and all these things. Yes, I understand the global market is bigger than the United States market, but the United States still accounts for about 30% of consumption worldwide. So the tariffs are meant to bring back trade in line so we can get our deficit under control so we won't run off the cliff. And all the corporations want is their profits now. Now, don't get me wrong. Corporations like long-term sustainability as well, but there's not a CEO on the planet that isn't concerned about their next shareholder meeting, which is quarterly. So instead of having a 20-year outlook, they have a 3-month outlook at a time to make sure they stay profitable. Now, a CEO can go into a quarterly shareholder meeting without profits, but say, hey, listen, this is what's coming. But if what's coming is way too far down the road, they're going to replace that CEO with a new CEO. So quarterly profits are extraordinarily important to the CEOs who run these companies that are massive multinational corporations that dictate what we do because they have influence over Congress and power over the people because of such. So, right now you have a president that's trying to buck the system, to try to reinvent or reestablish trade worldwide, establish the United States as the dominant power, but that would upset the globalists. So where does Bitcoin come in all this? I know this isn't my typical rant, but I've just been fed up with seeing all the negativity on the news. It's only meant to scare you into either watching the headline, which I probably did here on my clickbait of a thumbnail, watching the headline, or trying to get you to sell your Bitcoin, or get you to write your congressman or tell your president, hey, listen, cut it off the tariffs. You're hurting the corporations. They need their profits now. They can't wait another 6 months for their profits. Now, you might think I'm crazy. You might think I'm a conspiracy theorist, but just look around. Follow the money. When you go to the doctor, what do they tell you to do? They don't ever tell you to diet and exercise. They probably joke about it. It's like going to the dentist and they tell you to brush your teeth and floss. You're like, okay, I'll floss. But the difference is, flossing will save you time at the dentist. Proper diet will save you time at the doctor. Doctors don't make money when you don't come to visit them. Pfizer doesn't make money when you don't buy their pharmaceuticals. And then these doctors don't get their spiffs and kickbacks if the corporations aren't profitable. And they don't teach basic nutrition at medical school. And so here's my thought on this, is that if you look at where Bitcoin is right now, you've seen that 8 days in a row, we've tried to bounce off this $86,000 level. It has held its value very well in some very tumultuous times. So is this the Bitcoin that we're going to see in the future? Is it going to be a store of value and a hedge against inflation? And really think about this. If we do run off a cliff, if the world is changing and we are going to more of a, we're going to go deleveraging and there's going to be the debt payback period and the reckoning period for all the debt out there, where do you want your dollars? Do you want it, I should say, where you want your assets? Do you want it in dollars, depreciating heavily? Because the dollar is inflating will inflate at a massive rate when they have to pump so much money into the economy. That dollar is going to be worth less and less and less. So your value is deflating. The dollar is inflating. And so where do you want your money? Do you want it in the dollar, which your dollar will buy you less and less over time? Or do you want it in a store of value like gold? Or, hear me out, Bitcoin. Now, why do I bring this all back full circle is because the powers that be, the people that don't want you to have the Bitcoin, they want the Bitcoin. The whales are buying. Look at who's buying Bitcoin and look at who's selling. The small guy is fearful right now, and they're giving it up to the big guy. And it's not that I hate corporations. I'm a capitalist. I am a capitalist, but I like fair play, and I like people that treat their clients fairly. The fact that you have cereals that cannot be sold in Europe. So cereal like Kellogg has to make a different cereal in Europe than they do here. They can't sell the Europeans, like in Italy, they won't allow them to put the chemicals that they put in and poison our people here, but they're allowed to sell it in Europe. Now, it might cost a little bit more, but it's going to cost you a lot less in healthcare over time. So I believe this is all interconnected. I believe that the medical industry, the food industry, the FDA, the government, they're all in cahoots for profits. I could be wrong. Shoot me down in the cat. Don't shoot me, but shoot a comment down in the comment section. And so I do believe Bitcoin is a huge part of this strategy. I believe that Bitcoin. I did a video yesterday. You'll see it at the end here somewhere. But I did a video yesterday. The 5 reasons I'm still bullish on Bitcoin, and I'm still bullish on Bitcoin. I didn't even mention this that it kind of plays in that it is a safe haven. It seems to be right now, according to this chart here, it seems to be a bit of safe haven that's really trying to break out. It's trying to break out. It can't. This is a very strong ceiling of resistance, and it will take some kind of catalyst. I've been saying that it's the tariffs ending, but it might be the tariffs staying put. That might be the catalyst. I'm starting to see it in a different light now. Let me know what you're thinking, what you see about this. Let me know what your strategy is. If you're not a subscriber, please like, subscribe, share. This is my Saturday rant. I hope you enjoyed it some kind, at least to think that this guy's freaking crazy. Crazy enough for me to watch again. I'm going to subscribe. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.